Welcome, everybody, to the Peanut Butter Jelly Wars tier list, where I, the creator of the game, am going to make the best tier list that I possibly can before an official PB Genesis tournament we're going to have this Saturday. Now, I'm going to try to do this in one take, so if I mess up here and there, I'm sorry. I'm sometimes a little slow with my thoughts, so we're trying to do this as fast as we can, the best we can. So I know this is a little weird that I, the creator, am going to make a tier list of my game. This might come across as me like, oh, this is where I intended to put every single troop. But honestly, that wasn't, these placements you're about to see is none of that. This is more of my best prediction of where I think things are going to be in the tournament, which I could totally be wrong. So this is more of like a thought experiment for myself, and for anybody who is going to participate in the tournament, this can give you ideas of what to try, what not to try, what strategies to do. So think of this more as a learning experience, and hopefully, like, my opinions don't tarnish this. Like, I want to let you know, like, this was not my intention when I was making this game to put all these troops in these certain areas. Like, a lot of times things happen that developers don't intend. Anyway, without further ado, I don't want to spend too much time. Let's try to go through this tier list. So I did order it. S, A plus, A, B, C, D tier. And I kind of listed what each one does here. I'll go through as I go through. Let's start with the S tier. So this one, I think it's good to label each tier so you know exactly what it is. And this tier is, if you're not using these, what are you doing? So you should be using these units in every battle. And at least in my opinion, again, it's my opinion. I could be completely wrong, so prove me wrong otherwise. And the first one might surprise some of you. Actually, before I go on, if you have no clue how to play this game, you just like look in this video, like, what is this game? I made a how to play Peanut Butter Jelly Wars video. I'll put that in the description below. Maybe have a thing pop up on which side. I don't know which side it's going to be on. Anyway, so that way you have a little bit of context to what each troop does. I'm not going to explain what every single one does exactly. So this is not for like you. I'm expecting you to know a little bit about this game. So the first one might surprise some of you, and that is the Iron Cannon. The Iron Cannon is so good, and it was not intentional for it to be this good. If you watch the second tournament, one player, Nivlac13, really abuses this, and I want to show you a quick clip right here. This is why it's overpowered. See, you got Jelly here. He just places the cannon down, and boom, boom. So here's the thing, it doesn't shoot a bullet. It just creates a blast. And it comes out the first 15 frames. So Captain Peanut Butter in this clip cannot dodge that. So what you can do is you can like sell, like here's another clip. You can like sell all your buildings at the very beginning and like build lots of banks. He's going to build a lot of banks in this clip. And so at first you might think, oh, that's really risky. Like you're selling all your defenses so you can build more banks. So like it's risky because you have no defenses, but it's good because you're getting an economic boost. Well, the thing is you can afford to do that because if you're good at your micro and controlling your captain and the movement and predicting where your opponent's going to go, you can like watch the map. So whenever like the enemy captain comes near you, you just switch to the Iron Cannon, hold the build button, and when they're nearby, let go, and they'll die. They'll go back. So it's like I feel like the metagame is going to develop. It might not happen this tournament, but I feel like that's where it would develop. And once you can master this strategy, it's just really good. Also, you can like run around and kind of go behind your opponent's base and place iron cannons, and they have so much HP, they auto heal. Honestly, like I thought the iron cannons wouldn't be that good. So I gave them auto healing and all this HP. And it's just funny because now looking at when I watch people play it, after watching people play this, like they're so powerful. Anyway, that's enough with that one. So the next one is the Piggy Bank. This is self-explanatory. It prints money. You need a big economy. The bigger economy you have, the more money you have. Like literally, yeah, self-explanatory. These could go in any other order, but right now I'm just going to put the Iron Cannon in front just to show you like how good I think it is. Like even without building a piggy bank, you could like use iron cannons to mess around with people. After that, it's going to be the normal cannon in S tier, which they're not very super powerful, but they're so cheap and you can just build them everywhere. So sometimes I see players build a lot of bread and toast, and I kind of intend that to be a wall, but in practice, I've noticed that building lots of bread and toast means nothing if you don't have cannons behind it. So if you just build a bunch of cannons everywhere, that's better. And sometimes that's all you need. You don't even need the walls of bread and toast. Just build cannons anywhere. Because like what's really important is to stop the enemy captain from coming close to you. It's all about the micro, because this is a very fast-paced game, and you can just run up to your opponent's base. Here's a garden gnome explosion, or like I'm gonna build a bunch of iron cannons in front of you. If you build cannons everywhere, it's gonna slow down your opponent, and it's gonna make it harder for them to come in. So these are the only 3 S tier units. But like honestly, if you're not using these, like you don't have to use these, but if you're in it to win it, like you should probably be using these 3. And in this, so a friend and I, Michael, we're going to be working on a sequel, and we're probably going to change the Iron Cannon a bit, or make it so it's not like the best unit in the game, because that wasn't intentional. I don't like want to nerf it too much. I still want to make it have all the cool abilities it has, but because I like that, the metagame, but it's just like, wow, like, I don't want it, like, everyone has to pick the Iron Cannon, but honestly, I kind of feel like that's where it's going to go. So A+, these are, like, almost win in S tier, but I decided, like, well, you don't have to have both of these, because there's 2 of them in here, but I feel like you should have at least one of these. If you don't have one of these, you're not playing optimally. And they are the Ant and the Splayer. So if you want to, I'll start with the Splayer. So if you want to see how overpowered the Splayers are, just watch the first beta tournament. That's before Ants existed. Ants were created by me to counter Splayers because they're so powerful. Splayers could instant shot bread and cannons, and they were slightly more expensive, but not that expensive. And they have lots of HP, so they were just super powerful. And I still think they are. Now they're not as good because one ant can is cheaper than a Splayer, and one ant can beat 3 Splayers. But the thing that the Splayer has, it has lots of HP. So, and I also kind of see the metagame being having very scrappy games where you're just running around trying to build stuff everywhere, and you can't really afford to have a huge economy. And so that means there's probably going to be a lot of players who are going to place cannons everywhere and bread everywhere. So if players catch on this, people are only building bread and cannons because they can't afford anything more expensive, you can just build one Splayer and it takes care of it. You can just place one Splayer by their defenses and just walk away. And they're super good. Now ants I think are slightly better though, and that's because they do so much damage. Their damage is a stack on top of each other. If you have 2 ants on top of one toast, it'll destroy that toast faster. And they're not strong by them. If you only build one ant, they're not that good. One Splayer can do a lot of damage by itself, but one ant can't. But the thing is, if you can save up enough money and then build a bunch, they are super powerful. And I feel like you should have to have at least one of these. For different purposes, you have to understand what's good at each one. I think the thing to keep in mind with the ant's not a trip you just can build and it will win. You have to be good at microing. You have to be good at dodging cannons and getting into your opponent and then building the ant. And one more thing that it's a big pro on the Splayer is that they can be damage sponges. So you can build a bunch of them and they'll take the damage for you, and then the captain can hide behind them and get closer to the opponent's base. So that's one thing that the Splayer can do that the ant can't do. Anyway, so let's move on to A tier. These will probably be dominant in the meta. I don't think you have to have any of these, but I think these are going to be the more optimal picks compared to the other ones. And I also did this tier list, put my placements before so this go faster. So first I'm going to put down the toast and the bread, and I think this could go either order. I actually lied. Ha! The bread and the toast do not go here. Spoiler alert, they actually go here. Not the best, but they have their unique uses. I'll explain that later. I was looking at my list wrong. Okay, actually what goes here is the power bulb. And So the power bulb is just really good because it's just the best defensive unit out there. Now, I don't know if defensive will be like the best strategy, but I think it is a viable strategy because right now the metagame is going towards a more offensive. I want to attack you right away. But if someone is good enough at like keeping their cool and defending themselves, they can use the light bulb or the power bulb. It's actually what it's called. They can use it to boost the production of their spawners, and they can make UFOs super fast. And that's what two of the other units in this tier pair with the power bulb, and that's, I think, the Hive and the UFO. Now, I think the Hive is super good because, and I actually put the Hive above the other spawners, and I didn't put the Fly up here because I actually think the Hive is a more optimal choice. Looking at it now, this is not what I intended when I made the game, but looking at it now, I think the Hive is a more optimal choice than building a Fly by itself because what I've seen a lot of players do, they like build like 6 flies, so that's like $3,000, and then they do like 6 or 8 damage to like a couple of cannons, and then they all die, and they don't kill a single cannon. Maybe they kill 1 cannon, but that's like a loss ratio. Like that, you didn't gain anything from that, and you just spent that money on it. Now, but here's the thing: when you build a hive once, it will constantly spawn flies for you. And so you don't have to spend any money. Hold on 1 second. Sorry about that, guys. I just had to check on my wife and my daughter to see how they're doing. So got to keep family first. Priorities, man. Remember that out there, kids. Anyway, so I think I was talking about the hives. And the reason why the hives I would put above the flies is because you build them once, and then they will, if you can keep them alive, they'll constantly spit out flies for you. And if you combine that with the light bulb, like flies are coming out every 5 seconds. Now you put like 3 hives there by the light bulb. Now you're getting 3 flies per second. Now, hold on 1 second again. It looks like I won't be doing this in one take, but that's okay. Like, so if you hear like baby's crying in the background, just ignore it, you know. Anyway, I'll be continuing. So the hives, right? They're better. Long story short, I think they're better than flies by themselves because they will constantly spit them out, and you don't have to waste the money. So even if they do die, chances are they're going to be doing some damage. So they'll whittle away at your opponent, and you're constantly going to have this bigger and bigger army. The reason why I put the hive up here, not the other spawners, is because the hive is cheaper, and like I said, I think this game is going really offensively, and even though this is a defensive strategy, like, you need to get that down as soon as you can. The more you can get down faster, the better. It's only 2,000, the same cost as a bank, so you're basically sacrificing a bank to have an army of flies come out. Now, what's not cheap is the UFO. However, it is so powerful. I did buff it a lot from the first tournament. I really wanted to make the UFO, if you could get it out, it's really good. And honestly, it might not deserve to be up here. It might be more B tier. But I think for now, I'll put this A because they're just super powerful. Especially if you're a beginner, like, this is probably a good strategy to go. The thing is, you have to be really good at defending your base because they're really expensive, and it takes a lot longer for an egg to hatch than having a hive spawn a fly, for example. So you definitely have to pair this with the power bulb. You can also do a rust strategy. I actually posted that on our Discord channel and on Twitter. You can see that link in the description if you wanted to join any of those things. And basically, just long story short, UFOs are really powerful, and if you can get them out, like, they are, if everyone had infinite money, UFOs are probably the strongest thing in the game, except for maybe one unit combination, which is also on this list, which is the Roar Beetle and the Gnome. And the Roar Beetle's it's expensive, but if it gets on the field, you have to deal with it. And this is actually why the Toast is up here, because really the only time you really want to build Toast is to stop these guys, the Splayer and the Roar Beetle. But in combination with the Roar Beetle is the Gnome. And these guys are just go perfectly together, like peanut butter and chocolate, at least in my opinion. But yeah, since the beetles are bomb proof, you can, like, once you have enough money, you can spam beetles and then go gnome, 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 and their just defenses go away, and your army of beetles still stays there. They'll take the damages so like the gnomes don't get hit too early, and they won't kill the beetles. However, it's a very, very expensive strategy, so that's going to hold it back, and that's kind of why it's not like A plus, because because they're expensive, right? And yeah, but they are still. I think they're going to be dominant in the meta. You're going to see them. There's going to be gnome rushes. There's going to be beetle rushes. In fact, the beetle and gnomes might be more popular than the other ones. However, the reason why I put the defensive stuff first is I actually think it might be easier to defend than to be offensive. Ironically, even though it's going super offensively, and that's because of the Iron Cannon strat. It's this strat right here. It's broken. If you're really good at that, you're almost better. You have more of an advantage defending because you can teleport back to your base at any moment. Well, if you get hit, you have to go all the way back and walk back, and by that time, a UFO could have hatched. So it'll be an interesting meta for sure. Anyway, I think the toast and bread is next. Let's check my pre-made list right here. Okay, yeah. So these are next. These are pretty self-explanatory too. I could see the bread going over, but for now I'm going to put the toast over because in the next tournament I think more people are going to use toast because of the beetles. But I could see the bread being used more in the future if the games get faster and faster and faster and they get more scrappy. And that's because they're so cheap to make. And if that does happen, then the Splayers definitely are going to keep their A+. If less and less people are going to use bread, I could see the Splayers going down, but still the Splayers are just super good too. I actually think they're underrated. So next in the A tier, so this is, oh, by the way, this is not the best, but they have their unique uses. Like these ones, like you want to use them in the right scenarios. You can't just build them willy-nilly. Like it's like, I'm going to spam UFOs to win. Like you can do that with UFOs. These ones, like you could spam them, but if you're against a good player, it's probably not going to work. So the first one I'm going to put down is the Bumbler. And the main advantage that the Bumbler has is they're probably the best Roar Beetle counter. So if someone's sending a Roar Beetle at you at the very beginning of the game, build a piece of toast. The beetle will be attracted to that piece of toast, and then just build like one or two bumblers, and then you can build a couple more pieces of toast to make sure they don't break through. The bumblers can't get hurt by the bumblers. But the bumblers can't get hurt by the Roar Beetles, and they do 5 damage per shot. So the Roar Beetles have 100 HP, so it's a lot better than a cannon doing 1 damage, or like the bumblers are doing 5 damage, 5 damage, 5 damage. So like that makes them good. But even I think that's the main use for them. If your opponent is not using Roar Beetles, they're still good, but I don't think they're going to be the optimal choice. They were intended to counter iron cannons. They had like longer range than iron cannons, but I feel like the iron cannons aren't going to be used as walls. I think they're going to be used as melee attacks, like this type of tech thing where you just like build seriously. Build the iron cannon, and he could have sold it. And you get so it costs 3,000 to build it, and then you gain 1,000 for taking out the opponent, and then you sell it for 2,200, like 70%, and now you get a $200 profit. So then you treat it as a melee attack. We're keeping talking about iron cannons, man. This whole tier list. It's like all about the iron cannons. But anyway, they're meant to counter, the Bumblers were meant to counter them, but I don't think it's really going to be happening that way. So I don't know if that's going to be that relevant. They do take out buildings pretty fast, but not as fast as the UFO gnome or Splayers and ants. But they can, and if you get a large group of them, they're pretty scary. However, they are completely invalidated by UFOs and gas cannons, which are it's coming up soon. Maybe it's coming up soon. Anyway, but like they're good though. But I think it's because they're good against beetles that gives them a unique use case. Maybe not the best, but they have their use. And the next I would put down is the portal. And see, I'm just going to put something down in D tier right now because let's get out of the way. The anthill. And this might seem surprising because like the ants up here and the anthill's down here, and I have a reason. Like, and it's not bad. Like, and it could even be good, but I don't think it's the optimal pick because ants are best when you micro and you dodge your opponent's bullets and then build it right in front of them or something like that, or just build swarms of them, right? The anthill, like, you put it down and it spawns an ant every 10 seconds or every 5 seconds if it's by a light bulb. If you have a lot of them, then it's really good. But that's expensive. Like, it's 4,000, and then like for each anthill, and then you have, the light bulb, and it's not like the most expensive thing, but like you might as well just be building a bunch of ants at that time. Like, and here's the thing: if one ant's coming in, trickling in, but they're not all coming in a big horde, they do nothing basically because they just die before they even get there. And they're not going to be like trying to take this weird route to dodge the cannons. Like the AI is pretty dumb on its own. A lot of it's reliant on the captain's movement. And so they're just going to die and they're not going to do anything. At least the hives with the flies, they will attack before they die and they'll slowly wither them down. Now the splares, they're very expensive, but they produce a decently expensive troop every 10 to 5 seconds, depending if it's by the power bulb or not. And that's super good because the splares have 30 HP each. So sure, like they have to get to them to attack, but they're probably going to do some damage before they get there. And even if they die, like they're a damage sponge. They're taking up hits for you. There's probably something up you could like walk behind them as it's coming in. And so it's probably not the best, but I think it will have its unique use cases. I think you could have a strategy where you have a portal and then maybe you have a bunch of flies with it, or you're just using a bunch of cannons and you're like behind them. You could also just do mass portals. And if you're worried about ants, just build a bunch of cannons or flies. You can combine this with hives even. That could be a really powerful strategy. Very slow going, but very powerful. Honestly, if I had to actually predict what's going to happen, we're probably going to see a lot of these guys, the roar beetle and the gnome. So yeah. Anyway, next on the B tier is only one more. We have the gas cannon, and I think the gas cannon is one of the most underrated units. We might hardly see it at the tournament. It's because a lot of people are just scared at using it because it's $8,000. It's super expensive and has 2 HP, but it has the longest attack range in the game, and that's nothing to scoff at. I think a really good strategy would be to walk up right to your opponent's base, up until like you can see like the bullets coming, and then you gotta back up, build a gas cannon. It's going to attack them and outrange them, and it like will slowly wear down their toast. Like by the time you have the gas cannons up, they're probably not going to have lots of bread up. And even if they do, you can pair this with ants and splares, and they can take out the pieces of bread for you. So the gas cannons are like this awesome siege unit. And there's another good siege unit, the Psycrab, and I'll explain why later I think it's not as good. And the main reason is because Psycrabs struggle against beetles and UFOs and splares, while the gas cannon doesn't. Now, it should note that the gas cannon cannot hurt the ant, which is a really powerful, it's A+ tier, right? And they actually can't even hurt the iron cannons. But I don't think the iron cannon's relevant because, I don't think people are going to be using them as walls of defense. It's going to be more of like an attack option. I guess you could use it as a wall of defense. But the ants, though, you just got to pair this with cannons. If you pair it with cannons, it's good. I also think you should use the light bulb or the power bulb with the gas cannon. I think that'd be good. I actually think power bulb, hive, gas cannon is a really powerful combo because you can do this more defensive creep in strategy. You can build an iron cannon closer, build it closer, and then the the constant spew of flies coming makes it harder for your captain to come, the enemy captain to come closer to your base. So yeah, so like this is where I think. So this is A tier. This is B tier. Let me continue on C tier. These are the may not be optimal picks. Now these ones I want to clarify. I think they're good units, and we might see them a lot. Actually, I'm pretty sure we're going to see them in the tournament. But where I see the metagame going, I have a feeling like these aren't going to be the optimal picks. And I feel like whoever wins the tournament, they're probably not going to be using these. They're going to be using something else because even though these are good units, they're just there's just better picks, right? There's better choices out there. So the first one is going to be the Psy Crab. Now the Psy Crab, like I almost put in B tier, but the main reason is because I think the gas cannon's probably going to be better in most situations. The nice thing about the Psy Crab is that like once it gets in range, it'll stop moving, then it will attack. So it's kind of like a mobile cannon. It's also cheaper than the gas cannon, and I think it shoots at the same fire rate. However, it doesn't get boosted by the power bulb. So that's something you got to keep in mind. One advantage the Psy Crab does have, it's really good at keeping the enemy captain coming nearby because the spoons home in on its target. But I've actually used these Psy Crabs to beat some opponents, even like in the in the last tournament, in the second tournament, I used Psy Crabs to beat I did a friendly match with the winner of the tournament just to see like how good I would do against them, which I guess is unfair because I know the code in and out, so it's not really that fair. But I want to try it anyway. And I noticed the crabs weren't that popular, so I tried playing the crabs, and I actually won using the crabs. But looking back at the footage, honestly, I didn't really need them to win. Like they didn't change anything. I could have just used gas cannons. Honestly, I probably didn't even need the gas cannons in that one. I kind of just won with using bumblers, funnily enough. And it's good play. So I don't really know if it was that helpful. Like they're good, but like I just feel like there's better options. Like because you only can pick 5, right? Excluding the default units, these guys. But like, why would you use the Psy Crab if you could use the Hive? It's cheaper, and it will constantly spew out stuff, and like, if they die, they die. As long as you can protect, where all your hives are coming from. And really, you only need like 5 hives to be good. For Psy Crabs, you need like at least like 6 of them to like cause pressure. If you want to wipe your opponent, you need like 12 or more. So it's getting kind of expensive. They're 5,000 a pop. Also, like the UFOs are just like super powerful, so like they're better. And like if you want to do the outrange game, just do the gas cannon. Like they have longer range anyway. They are more expensive, but like you can sell them. You can't sell the Psy Crab. So like when you're done with the gas cannon, you can just sell it. So that's my opinion. After this, my thing went away, but it's the fly, and it's kind of like what I was saying before. Why I think the hive is better than the fly. At first I thought the flies might be like A+ or A tier, because like they could, let's put it back up here for a second. I thought might be A tier because, like if a captain's nearby, you can build it and it can take them out when they get close. But hey, remember this clip? That clip right here. Yep, see? Boom. Boom. Like, the Iron Cannon does it better. So, it's not an optimal pick. One use I could see, and this actually, now that I didn't think about this when I was making this list originally, and this actually might bump them up. I'm not going to change it, but flies are actually one of the best troops at taking out the jar fast. So, like, to keep the ants from being overpowered. So when like 2 ants are on top of a piece of toaster bread, that damage stacks on top of each other. Now, but when they're attacking a jar, the damage doesn't stack. I did that because that'd be way too overpowered in my opinion. However, guess what? The flies attack stack, and like that was kind of an oversight. But honestly, I'm not going to change it. So the game's going to stay this way. Sorry. Hold on one second. Anyway, I'm back now. So we talked about the flies. Why I think they're still really good, but they're might not be the most optimal pick. I actually think you're better off using crabs than flies too, because flies keep them flying into danger. while the crabs at least stay back so you can like run in front of them and defend them easier. But I guess the flies can be like there's a strategy where like you're using bumblers to destroy UFOs, and you can use the flies as meat shields. But the thing is, just use the hives. The hives are just better. Yeah, I don't know. It's just, in my opinion, like, you can go to this tournament. You can play. You can host local tournaments of your own too. Sorry, we don't have online play yet, but we will for the sequel. That's a priority. But prove me wrong. Put in a clip. Prove me wrong. It's a challenge. Prove that my tier list sucks. Make your own tier list. Like, tell me the game creator doesn't even know his game, right? Okay, so I'm gonna place the last ones real quick. So, the laser cannon's in C tier, and the hive mind is in, I'm gonna say, top D tier. So real quick, the laser cannon, in theory, it's a better cannon. It has longer range. It does 5 damage instead of 1. Sure, attacks slower, but if you have a bunch of them, it doesn't matter. They do have, sure, it has like the laser cannon is less HP, but it's only 1 less HP. Sure, they're more expensive, and here's the thing: all these sures, it's not that bad. Actually, kind of make it lead to like, well, it's good, but there's better options. Like, they're very good against UFOs, but hey, so are gas cannons, and they have higher range. They are cheaper, but gas cannons have longer attack range. And I think the main problem with the laser cannons is that like they kind of struggle against, like, they should be good against the beetles, but they really aren't. I mean, like, even if toast, I guess they're okay. But less laser cannons are just better. Sorry, gas cannons are just better in general. The thing is, like, laser cannons should be really good, but they use up a slot. And they cost money, and they're only really good if you have a lot of them, and that costs a lot of money. So if your opponent's just building a bunch of laser cannons, okay, I'm just going to build banks. Okay, then your opponent's like, crap, I just wasted that money. They can sell it, but they did lose some money in return, and they didn't really gain anything because the opponent didn't try attacking them. And laser cannons really aren't good at attacking. They don't do bonus damage against buildings. So it's actually, they're worse against buildings than cannons. And the laser cannon costs 3 times the amount of a normal cannon. So, and it uses up a slot. So when you count all those factors, that's why it's down here. Like, if you count it by usability, like, oh yeah, this is better. But it's just like, it's not that good because you're using up a slot. At least in my opinion. Saying that a lot now, aren't I? In my opinion. So then lastly, we have the D tier. These are the probably not optimal picks. So these ones are like the maybe optimal picks, but like may not be optimal picks, I mean. Like, I could be wrong, but these ones I'm pretty sure they're not optimal. Even though I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure they're not. Like, the hive minds, I really wanted them to be cool, but I think, honestly, the hive minds and the laser cannons are probably the most boring units in the game. Unfortunately. So, yeah, you live and you learn. But, the hive minds, like, in theory, if you can get them up, these guys become like SS tier, the ants. And everything like goes up a tier. All the insects go up a tier, basically. Like, maybe even these guys go to S tier. Because like these guys do 15 damage per shot when fully upgraded. They can 2-shot a splayer. Like, these guys shoot 2 times per second. These guys are like almost as fast as gnomes. These guys have 3 HP, so they got hit by a bullet 3 times and they do so much damage. The ants are the really scary ones. So you could make a strategy work, but the thing is, the main problem is not so much like they cost money, and that money could be being used on the piggy banks, and they also use up space. Now, the spawners are kind of in a similar boat, but the thing, at least with the spawners, they are giving you something. Like, a hive mind by itself does nothing. So like, you need like lots of space to build 20 of these guys to make the most out of them. So that's like space you're wasting to not use piggy banks. And the time, like, you're spending $20,000 to build 20 of these, when that could be like 10 banks instead. So like, are you really getting your money's worth? Maybe, but from what I've seen in practice, I have not seen a case. Like, I almost feel like it's almost better to have 10 banks. And you're using less space, too. Like, you have more space to put defenses down. It's less to defend. And it's just way cheaper because, like, you have to not only have to build 20 of these, but you have to build a large enough army now of the ants. to kill your opponent. So it's hard. And like I already explained with the anthills, like ants are just best when they're coming in huge swarms. So to make to make the most out of the anthills, you would have to build a bunch of them. But if you're building a bunch of anthills, you might as well just be building a bunch of ants. And I think even the hive minds are over the anthills because like I'd rather like it's cheaper to like even like build lots of hive minds, to make the most out of it. Because like you really need like a swarm of like 12, 15 ants to really like finish off an opponent. Unless if they're like have the hive mind upgrades. But anyway, so this is the upgrade. So real quick though, we got S tier, A plus, A, B, C, D. Once again, this was not my intention when I was making this game. My intention of balancing this game was just to make the game as fun as possible and making that certain things are like I want to make everything super cool and powerful, but they have their weaknesses. Kind of like paper. No, that's not paper. I was gonna say Paper Mario. No, I meant to say Pokemon-esque. Like everything, like fire is good against grass and grass is good against water. Stuff like that. Like I wanted to add a rock paper scissors element. So like ideally, as a meta game changes, this changes. However, this is where I kind of see things setting a bit. Of course, this would change depending on what's popular. And who knows? Maybe I'll do another one of these, and maybe I'll do a reaction, like, to see how trash my tier list is after the tournament. I might watch the tournament and think, dang, like, I was completely wrong. Like, dude, Psycrabs, they're super good. Like, they're way better than the gas cannon. So maybe I was wrong. But yeah. Anyway, if you want to make your tier list, go in the description down below and make your own tier list. So, of course, I'm assuming you'd have to play the game to really understand. So if you don't have the game, maybe you should buy the game on itch.io. I'll put that in the link description below. Really appreciate it. Michael and I, and here at Shake Up Games, we're currently making the sequel for Peanut Butter Jelly Wars. So any feedback you have, let us know. We're going to use it to make the best sequel we possibly can. Networking is a huge priority. And also, for all those who are going to participate in the tournament, hopefully you found this useful, so you have an idea of what you want to use. Like, please don't go off of like, well, like, Adam, the creator, he said, like, the iron cannons are the best, so I'm going to use iron cannons. So only build iron, like, you could do that, but, like, I mean, I want you to think for yourself, too. So this is more of a discussion, right? But hopefully this was helpful to you, and hopefully you have a fun time at the tournament. Also, remember, the tournament's on January 29th. We're going to live stream it, live commentary. It's going to be super fun. I hope you're there. So it'll be good. Peace, guys.